Hello everyone, welcome to our video 4A. Are you the healthiest person in your family? Here in this video lesson, you're going to learn how to use comparative and superlative adjectives. Okay? Our two objectives, the first one, discuss comparative and superlative forms. The second, to compare two equal things. We have three recommendations for you. The first one, you can pause the video at any time. The second, it's a great idea to take notes. And finally, make sure you ask your teacher any questions. Okay, as usual, we start our video lessons with a very short video clip. Here you will see a couple of friends who are deciding what to wear for a party. So pay attention on the use of comparative adjectives.
So, what are you going to wear to the party tomorrow night?
A t-shirt and jeans.
A t-shirt and jeans? No way. You have to wear something nicer.
I don't have anything nicer.
You do now.
All that's for me?
What do you think of these?
Do you have anything looser?
Yep.
Too wild for me. Anything else?
Here you go.
I don't know. Those look pretty warm. Something cooler would be good.
Okay, this is the end of our video clip. And as you noticed, they were using some comparative adjective that you will see in our next slides. Okay? So let's start by discussing comparative and superlative forms. In the following charts, you're going to be presented with a few rules about formation in terms of number of syllables and endings. Okay? So let's talk about this chart. One syllable adjectives. Soft, cheap, sweet, thin. Okay. We typically form the comparative form in this case adding the ER and the superlative form adding EST. Remember that we typically have the connector than after comparative and the article the before superlative. Okay. Let me give you an example. This computer is cheaper than that one, okay? But I can say, in my opinion, Sony is the cheapest computer in the store, okay? This is just for, to give you a little context. The next one, two syllable adjectives. Here we have adjectives such as lucky, pretty, and tidy. There is something particular about this adjective, and it's the fact that they all end in Y. So what we need to do here is change that Y for an I and add ER in the comparative form or IEST in the superlative. Luckier, luckiest. Okay, let me give you an example. I may say Anna is prettier than Elsa. Or I may also say in the superlative, the prettiest girl in my family is Viviana, for example. Okay, remember that something you need to remember is that when you talk about comparative adjective, you will typically have two items, two places, two animals, two objects, right? But when you use a superlative form, you are overemphasizing just one item within a category. So that's the one you concentrate on. Okay, now let's talk about two syllable adjectives with some special endings. Okay, remember adjectives such as worried, boring, careful, and useless. These adjectives have endings that are particularly different from the previous ones. Here, although they have two syllables, you will still have to use more for comparative or the most for superlative. Okay? You may say, history is more boring than biology, and English is the most boring class in my school, let's say. Now, in the next one, we have three syllable adjectives. In this particular case, we have examples such as dangerous and difficult. Okay, you will immediately use the word more in the comparative form to say more dangerous than, and then the most in the superlative to say the most dangerous. There are 3 typical irregular adjectives you have to take in mind, and those are good, bad, and far. Remember that good will never become gooder or goodest because those words don't exist. We have irregular cases here. Better, the best. Worse, the worst. Far, farther, the farthest. Okay, so make sure you memorize these 3 forms, which are particularly different from the previous ones. Okay, now let's talk about other uses of comparative. Okay, so there are some phrases that are commonly used when you make comparisons, like, for example, much, a bit, a lot, and slightly. These adverbs are typically used before the comparative, and they help the sentence sound really good. You should go by train. It would be much cheaper. Could you be a bit quieter? I'm feeling a lot better. And do you have one that's slightly bigger? So again, I recommend you to start using these adverbs as well. Another use of comparative is particularly different from what you have seen so far, and is the fact of using the article the before comparative. Like, the smaller, the easier. The smaller the gift, the easier it is to send. This may be a little confusing because you're using the article before a comparative form, right? But this is again a very common use of adjective, comparative adjective, when you don't want to indicate any change. Okay, so this characteristic here is pretty much the same. Okay, the more stressed you are, the worse it is for your health. So just for you to know that this structure is also possible. And finally, we have 2 comparatives can be also linked with, they can be repetitive, especially in literature. When you say things like, the sea was getting rougher and rougher, right? Her illness was becoming worse and worse, or he became more and more tired as the weeks went by. So this is very common when you are writing. Okay. Now, in the superlative form, we know that comparative and superlative can be placed before nouns in the attributive position, right? Like when you talk about a chocolate cake and you say, wow, this is the most delicious chocolate cake I've ever eaten. So this can be comment before a noun, right? Or you can also use it after the verb to be. Annabelle was the youngest. This restaurant is the best. Okay? Remember that you will contextualize it with expressions such as in town, right? So that way the superlative form will be more clear. Now, the opposite comparative forms, right? The opposite for more is less, and the opposite for the most is the least. Okay? This sofa is less comfortable. Again, this is the opposite for more. I've always been less patient than my sister, right? But then what about the opposite in the superlative? It is the least expensive way to travel, or she was the least intelligent of the 3 sisters. Don't forget that we can also use the opposites here. Now, there is another way to compare things, but in this case the comparison stays the same. 2 equal things. We will be using the expression as plus adjective plus as. Like saying, my hair is as long as my sister's. In the affirmative form, you're saying that both of you have the same hair length, right? But if you want to compare things which are not equal, you will make the sentence negative. Like saying, my house isn't as big as your house. Okay, and this is also very common. Now, it's time to practice all these rules and all these observations. So here we have 5 different sentences. I want you to think about the best word you would use to complete or fill in the gaps using any of the cases we have been talking about so far either comparative or superlative. I will stop for 5 seconds and then I will show you the answers. Well, you can pause the video and take your time if you want to write down your answers, but here you are. It's better than, smaller than, as successful as, more expensive than, and not crazier than. Okay, I hope you had these good answers too. Okay, as usual, there is a little homework that I want you to complete in our campus. Make sure you click on our video check-in below this video lesson, and if you need further information, you can go to our references. I hope you had found this lesson useful, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye bye.